Titian, the Venetian maestro of color, emotion, and Renaissance mastery. Titian, the Venetian Renaissance painter, is celebrated for his mastery of color, texture, and the dramatic use of light. Known for his portraits, mythological scenes, and religious works, Titian's ability to create depth and emotional intensity through his use of color and innovative techniques revolutionized the art world. His work laid the foundation for future generations of artists, making him one of the most influential figures in European art history. His rich, vibrant palettes and dynamic compositions continue to inspire admiration and scholarly study. This narrative is sponsored by Polly Speaks For You. The creator of Polly Speaks For You has always been passionate about empowering individuals, especially those with disabilities or learning challenges, through text-to-speech and voice recognition technology. Polly Speaks For You isn't just a tool. It's a bridge for people to communicate and interact with the world in a meaningful way. By blending historical storytelling with cutting-edge tech, the creator showcases how powerful a voice can be, whether telling your own story or preserving history. So hit that like, share, and subscribe button and help this channel grow. Now back to the story. 1. Color. Depth, emotion, and innovation. Titian's approach to color was groundbreaking, combining the intense richness of pigments with a skillful understanding of light and shadow. He often used deep, vibrant hues, particularly in his flesh tones, and his dramatic use of red, blue, and gold became central to his artistic identity. Titian's approach to color. Vivid, rich palettes. Titian was known for his mastery of creating depth with color, particularly in his portraits and mythological scenes. He often used rich reds, deep blues, and golden tones to create a sense of opulence and drama. Flesh tones. One of Titian's greatest innovations was his use of color to depict human flesh. He blended colors to create lifelike, glowing skin tones that were highly praised for their warmth and naturalism. Color as symbolism. Titian used color to enhance the emotional weight of his subjects. For instance, the rich reds in his Venus of Urbino are not just sensual, but also evoke the intense emotional and physical presence of his subjects. Tips for achieving Titian's color effects. Layering rich colors. Use deep, warm tones and build up layers of color to create depth. Start with an underpainting in earthy tones like sienna or umber, then layer more vibrant colors over the top. Create natural flesh tones. To achieve realistic flesh tones, use subtle blends of reds, yellows, and whites. Don't rely on a single color for skin, but use a variety of hues to depict light and shadow. Symbolic use of color. Use color consciously to evoke a mood or message. Red could suggest sensuality or power, while blues might convey a sense of serenity or divinity. 2. Brushwork. Bold, expressive, and energetic. Titian's brushwork was varied and dynamic, moving from the smooth, controlled strokes of his early work to more expressive, loose brushstrokes in his later paintings. His technique contributed to the dramatic quality of his art, giving his works an almost living, breathing energy. Techniques for Titian's brushwork. Loose and bold strokes. As Titian's style evolved, he became less concerned with fine detail, opting instead for bold, fluid brushstrokes that gave his paintings movement and life. Textures and details. In works like his Assumption of the Virgin, Titian employed rich textures, particularly in the folds of drapery and the musculature of figures, which conveyed both movement and volume. Emphasis on light and shadow. Titian's brushwork helped him create striking contrasts of light and shadow, particularly in the depiction of the human figure. His understanding of chiaroscuro, or the treatment of light and dark, enhanced the realism and drama in his work. Recreating Titian's brushwork. Fluid, expressive strokes. Use a combination of thick, sweeping strokes for large areas and finer, more controlled strokes for detail. Allow for some looseness in your brushwork to add energy to the painting. Focus on texture. Experiment with creating textures in the paint to mimic the tactile surface of fabric, skin, or other materials. Use varying pressure and techniques, such as scumbling, a dry brushing technique, to add texture and dimension. Chiaroscuro. Pay attention to the contrast between light and dark in your painting. Use light to highlight key areas and shadows to add depth and drama. 3. Composition, dramatic and balanced. Titian was a master of composition, using strong diagonal lines, balanced figures, and strategic placements of elements to draw the viewer's eye and create a sense of drama. His figures often fill the canvas, creating a dynamic interaction with their surroundings. Titian's approach to composition. Strategic use of space. Titian's compositions often feature figures placed centrally or in strong diagonal groupings that lead the eye throughout the piece. This dynamic arrangement creates a sense of movement and interaction between the subjects. Emotional impact. Titian's compositions were not only carefully planned, but also designed to evoke an emotional response. His figures are often placed in bold, intimate settings that enhance their emotional significance. Classical influence. Titian's work was greatly influenced by classical antiquity, and his compositions often echoed the balance and proportion seen in ancient sculpture. However, he infused these classical forms with a dramatic energy that was uniquely his own. Recréating Titian's composition. Focus on movement. Arrange figures dynamically within the frame, leading the viewer's eye from one part of the painting to another. Use diagonal lines or overlapping forms to create a sense of movement. Emotional placement. Think about how the placement of figures affects the emotional impact of the work. Close-up. Intimate portraits or figures set in dramatic lighting can convey intense emotions. Use of space. Be deliberate about how much space you leave in your composition. Use negative space strategically to enhance the visual impact and emotional weight of your subjects. 4. Emotional expression, depth, and sensuality. Titian's work is celebrated for its emotional depth, particularly in how he captured human sensuality and emotion through the physical presence of his subjects. Whether in portraits or mythological scenes, Titian's figures exude a powerful emotional presence. Techniques for capturing emotion. A lifelike figures. Titian's figures are alive with movement and emotion, making them feel real and present. He paid close attention to their expressions, postures, and gestures to convey their inner lives. Sensuality and power. In works like Venus of Urbino, Titian portrayed figures with an unmistakable sensuality, focusing on the human body's natural beauty and inviting an emotional connection between the viewer and the subject. A light and shadow as emotional tools. Titian used light and shadow not only for realism, but to heighten emotional intensity. The warm glow of light on skin, contrasted with deep shadows, adds to the emotional charge of his work. Tips for capturing emotion like Titian. Expressive figures. Focus on the body language and facial expressions of your subjects. Use posture, gaze, and subtle details to communicate emotion and personality. Sensual use of light. Pay attention to how light falls on the human figure and use it to emphasize beauty or power. Highlight curves, folds, and textures that contribute to the subject's presence. Contrast for emotion. Use dramatic contrasts in light and dark to emphasize the emotional content of your painting. Shadows can convey mystery, drama, or sadness, while light can suggest beauty, hope, or passion. In closing, Titian's work, from his innovative use of color to his expressive brushwork and masterful compositions, cemented his place as one of the most influential artists of the Renaissance. His ability to combine naturalism with emotional depth set him apart from his contemporaries, and his influence can be seen across centuries of Western art. By embracing his techniques, vivid color, dynamic composition, and emotional presence, artists can bring a timeless sense of drama and beauty to their work, just as Titian did in his masterpieces. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. To learn more about South Africa's leading accessibility software, visit www.polispeaks4u.co.za and support this meaningful dyslexic initiative. Thank you for watching.